I want to quickly talk about something, things I've been doing recently and what I'm planning to do with my life. Not because I think it's interesting, but because I think if you're interested in it and you're having second thoughts or you're not so sure about this particular subject, perhaps I can give you a perspective and also give you some help. I will be providing some links in case you have any interest in these kind of things. But basically, I'm deciding to help out on eco projects and on voluntary relief projects, maybe worldwide. I'm planning to go. Well, I've already been on some projects. I've been on a project in France where they made a love shack out of cob, basically, as kind of an alternative eco design, if you will. To show a model and to provide a model of one. I'm going to go back to another project in France with the same man. It's the same sort of project. This time we're going to build it and we're going to do a cost analysis of it and give details of exactly what was used. I'm going to suggest that we get kind of the amount of working hours that were involved, if I can. And also, he's getting a lot more measurement specific. The last one actually did have a design to it as well. I'm not going to link the specific project, but I will link other projects. And I'm hoping to go back to that one sometime this year. After that, a bit before that though, I will be going to Spain to work on basically an eco building school, just to learn a little bit more about it, and I'll be paying them a little bit to learn. Because it supports them and it supports me at the same time, and it helps us all. I think these kind of structures might become quite important in the future. I'll be doing the same thing in Italy, and then after that in France, after the Love Shack project in France, I think I will be going on probably another project or another couple of projects of this kind, agricultural projects, ecological projects, because I think this is a good way forward if we can have more ecological designs in cities. If for example, if you look here, there's no plants, there's nothing. If we had more plants or whatever inside of here, and more plants in general, more green life in cities, maybe they'd absorb carbon and other bad things that are in the atmosphere much easier. Maybe we'd have a lot less problems with pollution. I don't know. But also say that they're fruit producing, or trees, for example, or say that they're vegetables that you're growing. You're solving a lot of problems concerning food and concerning hunger and concerning these kinds of things, concerning the production of food for consumption. If you imagine every single house in the world had, let's say, a little carrot patch, a little tomato patch, some kind of fruit-bearing tree and some other thing, this would significantly cut down the amount we'd have to spend on food, and it would definitely cut down on world hunger, because we'd all have that little bit extra at all times, And if we all had a community garden on big complexes as well, we'd have this in addition to a community garden. I know they're doing rooftop gardening and stuff like this. I think in London they're doing rooftop gardening, and I think they're looking at doing hydroponics in cities, making city farms. Vertical city farms. I know there's a lot of design plans, but I don't know if this is in practice yet. I've heard rumors as well of floating islands and this kind of thing. I've seen a documentary about one hippie, I think he's living in Thailand or somewhere, and he's got his own floating island made of plastic that's well constructed, and he's managed to grow a tree and vegetables on it. There's no reason to believe that you couldn't make a larger or more dense or much higher construct than this that would be able to survive in the ocean. Say it was 50 meters high or 20 meters high, and maybe 1,000 square miles, 2,000 square, 1,000 square miles. Wow, no, 1,000 square meters or 2,000 square meters. Wow, imagine if it was 1,000 square miles. I'd be moving there now. I think it would be livable. I think it would be workable. I think it would be able to sustain the sea. The only problem is how would you move it and all this kind of thing. But anyway, I'm digressing here. My main point is I think that ecological projects are very important worldwide. It might be one of the most important things. I'm thinking that the most important things are They're probably going to be electricity, food, and water and agriculture. This kind of shit always is. And then the advancement of technology. Once we start making computers that are smarter than us, they'll be able to make better suggestions than us, and they'll be able to make robots smarter than them that'll make better suggestions than them, and so forth, you know. And we'll get much, much more proficient in society. But until that happens, we should probably deal with a lot more of our social and ecological problems. I'm choosing to go on these kind of projects, the ecological ones, because it's easier. I also hope to do a few months in India and a few months in Thailand whilst I'm there. Do 2 months on one farm in Thailand and 1 month free in Thailand. I don't know where, but I'll find another project, maybe a social one just for a change, and maybe do 2 months in India and 1 month on a social project in India as well. We'll see what happens. I hope for this, but I can't guarantee it, unfortunately for me. And yeah, just for people who are planning to do this, or people who want to stay in another country for a while, there's a lot of voluntary projects you can go on that are quite cheap or free. They might pay you. For example, woofing is a good example of this. And there's a lot of ecological, environmental projects you can become a part of. And just go to the project for free. They'll feed you, and you can learn a bit of their language as well. But it's not just that. It's not just that. I mean, there's quite a few elements to it. You can learn the language in the one hand. You can learn a lot about their culture. And you don't have to pay a shit ton, because they'll take you around. It's a lot cheaper as an option. It's a lot cheaper than a hostel as well, because you're not paying, or you're paying little, and they're feeding you as well. You're learning a skill, and what you're doing is not only beneficial for you and fun, it's good for the world. And this is why I'm deciding to do it, basically. My experience of it so far has been strange. I've only been to 3 projects. I went to one in Spain, the Sueno Verde. I went to one in France, the Love Shack project, and I went to one in Ecuador on a jungle farm. I think it's hard to decide which was my favorite. The first one I went to, the Love Shack one, I fell in love with. The name Love Shack is absolutely fitting for this project. You feel a lot of love when you are there. Not just from the people that are volunteering, not just from the idea of the project, but even from the man himself. The man of this project, he's amazing. He's a very, very good guy. What he's doing is he's spending a lot of his own money to pioneer something, get designs for something specifically. At the same time, he's trying to promote an ideology of love and encompassing something. You know, he's a major hippie, I guess. But what he's doing is very good. And he's not like the hippies who just talk all day. He's putting a lot of himself on the line for this. And at the same time, you know, he's got all this on his head. He's very good to the people around him. He's very good to the people who are working to him. He has a very good attitude. So I respect that project a lot. I learned a lot about building with cob there. I was very nervous to begin with because I didn't speak very good French. I still don't speak very good French, but I could just about muster conversations, basic things, right? And yeah, I got more confident. I realized they'd try and speak in English, broken English. I'd speak in broken French, or some of them spoke perfect English. You know, and we'd learn, we'd live together. It was like having a new family. They accepted me so readily, and they were so nice. We went everywhere together. We did a lot of things together. Everybody had good intentions, either political or environmental. There were some people like me who believed that the best way to resolve all these political problems and the problems in the world is to make everyone self-sustainable and more independent. And then there were other people who were just eco-hippies, and that's just as nice. And then there are other people who are just interested in these designs because they're curious and good designs. The fact that they're choosing to learn about ecological design says something about them to me. And you feel that in the air when you're there, you know. There's a real kind of air of celebration when you finish a part of a project, when you finish the day, and when you're together at the table in France. Boy, it's a good time when you're at a French dinner table. A lot of wine and cheese, and it's very good food. Everyone's very lovely at the dinner table. So, yeah, that was a hell of a good experience. The one in Spain was harder for me because there were only 3 of us there. There's a big dog, we're in the middle of nowhere, but it was beautiful. We're in the middle of this gigantic forest, in the middle of Spain. It's hard to describe. Actually, I think I've got videos on my channel. It's the Sueno Verde project. And we're doing cob building there, but it was slow progress. It was frustrating, but it was nice because you don't learn about these things without being there, and it's good to learn the frustrating part so you can understand the whole process. And it's nice being there because they have a good ethos, they have a good idea. They want to make an eco community as an example to other people how they can build eco communities, and they also want to provide psychological therapy and provide small festivals with information and stalls and such about this kind of thing. So they're on the one hand they're building their own eco community, which is great. They're trying to reduce waste. They're trying to produce everything they can themselves and produce for other people. This is admirable in itself. But they're also trying to promote good lifestyles actively. They're not just building this for themselves. These people are trying to host festivals for this kind of thing, and try and show the world that we can live in a better way, in a more sustainable way. So I admire them for this. The project was harder because there was a few of us. It was isolated, but it was good. It gave me time to reflect. I didn't know much Spanish, but the guy on this project spoke English, and I didn't learn really any Spanish there. Then my project in South America, on the jungle farm in Ecuador, was by far the hardest. In terms of work, it was actually quite simple. The solutions that they have in the Amazon are extremely simple. Chop this down, put it here, and put this here. Here's a very simple structure. Done. They're very, very smart when it comes to construction. And you look at some of these wood shacks and think these people are fucking savages living in old times. Maybe, but they understand the environment they're living in. They make these places on stilts because they don't want to get flooded. They make light structures that are strong, and they make them fast because you have to do things fast in the Amazon. These people are very smart. I learned a lot about native cooking. I learned a lot about preparing raw veg and raw fruit, and the harshness of the environment was the hardest one. It was very hard. It was dangerous all the time because of the animals and the bacteria, but it was humbling, and I'm very glad for the experience. And the man there, whilst he wanted us to work hard, I can't say anything bad about his ethos. He wants to become part of the jungle. I'm not so happy about this one because I feel like his farm will go to waste after he dies. But I actually have a feeling he'll probably change his mind about just dying with the jungle, and he'll give it to the local natives or someone in his family. But it's good that he's doing this because he's bought this piece of land which he has converted, so he's converted a bit of the Amazon. But it's all fruit trees and vegetables, so pretty much once it's gone, it'll turn back into forest, so it's pretty much a preservation site. And if someone else had bought it, it would just be concrete now. So what he's done is very good. And he's also bought other bits of land in the Amazon. He's got a few farms that are just big reserves, hectares and hectares of forest. So, he's used his buying power to preserve a part of nature. Whilst he might die with it and maybe it'll get taken and turned into bricks later, that's subject to opinion, however that's going to happen. Either way, what he's doing and his intent is good. And yeah, he's preserving nature with his wealth. That's a very good thing to do. He doesn't have much wealth, but it's cheap to buy land in the Amazon. Especially if you buy it off the natives without a contract. But I think he's got papers anyway. And so far, he spoke English quite well. Not the best, he's Czech, so he doesn't speak extremely perfect English, but he speaks extremely good English. He has very few grammatical errors. It's the same as French people who've spoken English for 5 years. They have errors every now and then, but it's pretty much perfect. It's good. I only really recall one error he made because it was just so funny, and he laughed as well afterwards. At one point, the dog food was smoking, and this is bad because it might start burning soon. And he didn't say, "Oh, the dog food's smoking, I've got to run." He said, "Shit, I've got to run, the dogs are smoking." And immediately I'm laughing. He's run outside. He has no concept of this because, in the jungle you just fucking get on with your shit, as fast as you can. And I've got this image of these dogs smoking cigars. But he came back, I explained this and he laughed and whatever. I respect this man and I respect this project because he's a very feeling man. He's very real. He's very honest. If he's pissed off, he's whatever. He's completely honest about it. And then 2 days later, he'll be saying, on reflection, I was bad, this, that, and the other. And he changes immediately. He's a very good guy. He taught me a lot about the jungle, a lot about the reality of how hard it is there. Because, all these people come there for a month or so. They think, oh, it's the jungle, oh, it's great. They don't think about the reality of how hard it is there. And he's prepared to live that, and he's prepared to show you a lot of the places there. So I like that about this man. And the volunteers I met there, again, very beautiful people, very good intentions. So on reflection of all this, whilst I was very nervous and it was very scary, it was worth doing. I've learned quite a lot of Spanish out here. I've learned a little bit of French. I've learned quite a lot about ecology, not in an advanced way, not in a way of graphs and university studies, but I very much understand the environment around me. I very much understand the natural environment. I know how to make quite a few natural constructs now, and I know how to think quickly about it, like just fill sandbags up, throw it in there, just do this, do that, do that. Well, I know how to do this and how to make it so it doesn't affect the environment in a bad way. For example, I remember filling in basically a river because it was part of a no, it was like a pond that was overflowing because it would end up overflowing to the river, and the river would eventually flow upwards, if that makes sense, because the river would slowly level down this little reserve, and it would just create a new causeway for the river. So what we did is we filled up a ton of sandbags and placed them in between two parts of this pond, because basically, it stops the water from overflowing to a certain amount. It doesn't completely, stop the water from going in between the sandbags full of sand, but that sand will over time degrade, and those bags will degrade. And if it was the UK, that'd take about 5 to 10 years. In the jungle, that's going to take about 3 to 6 months, maybe less, depends on how humid it is. Things degrade so quickly there. And things will grow into the sand. A lot of them will die within a month. The sand will start converting to soil. Things will die in the pond, and probably everything will convert to soil within 3 to 6 months as the sand gets displaced and things die on top of the sandbags. So it was very effective. It took a couple of days, but it was more effective and cost. It was more effective than just cementing it or making another construct. It was far cheaper as well. And as well, these projects usually are not more cost effective than the projects that you pay for. There's a lot of voluntary projects you can pay for, and there's a lot that you can't pay, that you can go on for free. I prefer the ones you go on for free, or the ones that you pay a little bit for. I don't really like the corporate ones because they're just selling, look, I did this, how cool am I? Give me $1,000 for 2 weeks working with penguins, and that's cool and all, but it's a very corporate experience, and you only learn what they want you to tell other people was good. You just learned that you were happy there and it was a good experience. And that's all well and good, you're happy, but it's not necessarily useful, and it's a lot of money. But that's not to say you shouldn't pay to volunteer all the time. For example, I could probably volunteer in a lot of these projects for free or for a lot less. And they'd be pissed about it, but say, okay, if you want to do that, you can do that. I don't like the idea, but okay. The reason I don't is because they're doing something good for the world, and they're supporting you, and at the same time you're supporting them for that continuation, and you're learning something from them at the end of the day. But I've blabbed on enough. I've gone for nearly 19-20 minutes here. I'll stop here. Just wanted to talk about ecological work and voluntary programs. I'll send some links for you down below in case you're interested, and if you're not, feel free to tell me I'm a fucking idiot, whatever. But thanks for watching. Hope you had a good day, and hope you enjoy yourself. Ciao.